I don't know where to start. Maybe with the night everything changed. Or maybe before that, when I still had a life I could be proud of. Before I had to crawl back home, sleeping just a few feet away from my own mother like some overgrown child. If you told me 5 years ago that I'd be 34, broke, jobless, and living with my mom again, I would have laughed in your face. But here I am. Sleeping in the same room with the woman who raised me. Trapped in a life I never wanted, battling urges I should never have. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when I had my own place. A decent job. Freedom. I wasn't rich, but I could afford my own damn bed. Then the layoffs hit. Cutbacks, they called it. Nothing personal, Zechariah, they said. Just business. Funny how people say that when they're taking everything from you. Losing my job meant losing my apartment. And losing my apartment meant going back to the one place I swore I'd never return to. My mother, Savannah Yates, welcomed me back without hesitation. She's that kind of woman. Always has been. Sweet. Generous. Maybe a little naive. I think she still sees me as the kid she raised. The boy who used to cling to her waist and beg her not to leave for work. She doesn't see the man I've become. Or the things I tried to keep buried. She offered me the couch at first, but we both knew that wasn't realistic. She only has a one-bedroom place, and it's not like we could afford to rent another spot just for me. So she insisted I take the bed while she slept on an old mattress on the floor. I told her no. That it wasn't right. That I could take the floor. But she wouldn't hear it. That's my mom. Always sacrificing. Always putting herself last. Eventually, she convinced me. We agreed to share the bed, but we kept our distance, one of us clinging to the edge of the mattress like we might catch fire if we got too close. At least, that's how it started. The thing about living with your mother at 34? It strips you of every ounce of dignity you have left. I felt like a damn teenager again. Waking up under the same roof. Eating the food she bought. Answering questions about my plans when I didn't have any. And the worst part? The walls in that tiny place are paper thin. There's no privacy. No escape. I couldn't even relieve myself without feeling like she'd hear me. Like she'd know. I tried in the bathroom, but my legs would go numb from sitting too long. I tried waiting until she left the house, but she's home more often than not. So I was stuck. Miserable. And losing my mind a little more each day. Here's the part one hate admitting. The part one swore I'd take to my grave. I've wanted my mom since I was a teenager. Not in the way a son should. Not in the way that's normal. I know it's wrong. I've always known. But that doesn't make it go away. Back then, I buried it. Forced myself to date other women. Forced myself to believe I'd grow out of it. But now? Now I'm back in her home. Back in her space. Back in her bed. And every night, it gets harder to pretend. Before I go on, I need to say something. If you're still here, listening, you need to know that this story isn't easy. It's not clean. It's not something people talk about openly. It deals with family, with desire, with things we don't like to admit even to ourselves. If any of that makes you uncomfortable, you should probably stop listening now. But if you stay, if you really want to know what happened, then I'll tell you. It started one night. A night just like any other. If you're still with me, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like this. Trust me, there's so much more to uncover. I don't know why that night felt different. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the weeks of pent-up frustration. Maybe it was the way the room felt smaller than usual, the air thick and suffocating, like the walls were closing in. Whatever it was, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my body restless, my mind racing, my skin itching with something I couldn't shake. The room was dark, the only light coming from the street lamp outside, a dull, hazy glow leaking through the blinds. The clock on the nightstand blinked back at me, mocking me with every passing second. Beside me, Savannah slept soundly, her breathing slow and even, her body curled slightly toward the edge of the bed. I could feel the warmth of her presence, the subtle rise and fall of her chest beneath the covers. It was nothing new. We had been sharing this bed for weeks. But that night, something was different. I felt different. I tried to ignore it. Tried to focus on anything else. The hum of the refrigerator in the other room. The distant sound of a car passing outside. The rhythmic ticking of the clock. But nothing worked. The more I tried to push it away, the stronger it became. That hunger. That ache. That unbearable need clawing at the edges of my sanity. I turned onto my side, then onto my back again. Adjusted the pillow. Pushed the blanket down, then pulled it back up. It didn't matter what I did. The pressure in my chest wouldn't let up. The tension in my muscles wouldn't ease. And all I could think about was the unbearable heat pooling low in my stomach, the need crawling beneath my skin like a sickness. I told myself to stop. That it was wrong. That I should get up, leave the room, splash cold water on my face and clear my head. But I didn't move. I just lay there, trapped in my own body, drowning in my own thoughts, my pulse hammering in my ears. And then, before I could stop myself, before I could even fully process what I was doing, my hand was reaching for my phone. I shouldn't have. I knew I shouldn't have. But I did it anyway. I plugged in my earbuds, the cord brushing against my bare skin, sending a shiver down my spine. My fingers moved on their own, muscle memory guiding them as I scrolled through the screen, searching. Looking for something, anything, to ease the ache. And when I found it, when the video started playing, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just any video. It was exactly what I knew I shouldn't be watching. The kind that fed into every dark thought, every shameful fantasy, every twisted desire I had spent years trying to bury. The kind that made my stomach knot with guilt even as my body reacted in ways I couldn't control. The kind that made my pulse stutter and my skin prickle with heat, made the blood roar in my ears until the rest of the world disappeared. Until nothing existed except for the flickering images on the screen and the woman sleeping beside me. I tried to be quiet. So quiet. Barely moving, barely breathing, my body locked in place as I let the moment swallow me whole. I told myself it wasn't real. That it was just a fantasy. That it didn't mean anything. But deep down, I knew I was lying. I knew exactly what I was doing. And I knew that if she woke up, if she turned over and saw me like this, everything would be over. And then, she moved. My body went rigid, my breath catching in my throat so fast it hurt. My fingers clenched into the sheets, my heart beat a deafening thunder in my ears. She shifted, just slightly, a soft sigh escaping her lips as she rolled onto her back, her arm brushing against mine for the briefest second. The warmth of her skin burned through the fabric of my shirt, sent a jolt straight down my spine. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just lay there, frozen, waiting. Was she awake? Had she felt it? Had she seen? I watched her, my pulse hammering against my ribs, my stomach twisting into knots so tight I thought I might be sick. Her face was still, relaxed, her lips slightly parted as she breathed in and out, slow, steady. But something felt wrong. Off. The air in the room had shifted, charged with something I couldn't name. Or maybe it was just my paranoia. Maybe it was just my own guilt, my own shame, choking me from the inside out. I waited. Waited for her to stir again, for her eyes to flutter open, for her to turn her head and look at me. But she didn't. She only let out another slow, sleepy breath and rolled away from me, back toward the wall. It should have been a relief. It should have made me stop. But it didn't. It only made me feel more reckless. Morning came too fast. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the blinds, painting the room in soft gold. Savannah woke up first, stretching lazily before sitting up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. I stayed still, my back to her, pretending to be asleep. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't face what I had done. I could still feel the heat of the night clinging to my skin, the weight of my own shame pressing down on my chest. She didn't say anything. Just got up, left the room, the door clicking shut behind her. And as soon as she was gone, I let out the breath I hadn't even realized I'd been holding. I should have felt relieved. I should have promised myself I'd never do it again. But I didn't. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of the night before. The way she had moved. The way her body had shifted closer to mine. The way I had wanted so badly for her to wake up and see me. I hated myself for it. Hated the thoughts that ran through my mind, the ones I couldn't seem to stop. But no matter how hard I tried, no matter how many times I told myself it was wrong, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop wanting more. That night, something changed. And from that moment on, there was no going back. Something changed after that night. Or maybe, something had always been there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to take hold. Either way, I could feel it now, pressing against my ribs, curling around my throat like a slow, suffocating grip. It wasn't just a fleeting thought anymore. It wasn't just something I could ignore, push down, pretend wasn't real. It was in me, woven into every second of every day, creeping into the spaces between us like smoke, thick and heavy, impossible to escape. I started noticing things I had never paid attention to before. The way Savannah moved, graceful without trying, her hips swaying slightly as she walked, the fabric of her clothes clinging to the curves I had spent years forcing myself not to look at. The way she smelled, soft and familiar, like lavender and something warm, something that made my stomach tighten and my hands clench into fists. The way she filled a room, her presence wrapping around me, making it harder and harder to breathe. I told myself I was imagining it. That it was just in my head, that it wasn't real. But the more I tried to convince myself, the more impossible it became to believe. Because every time she leaned close, every time her hand brushed against mine, every time her lips parted in an easy smile, something inside me twisted, burned, begged for something I couldn't have. And the worst part? I started to wonder if she felt it too. It started small. Little things. A touch that lingered a second too long. A glance that felt heavier than it should. A shift in her tone, soft, amused, teasing in a way that made my pulse stutter and my skin prickle with heat. One night, she walked into the room wearing nothing but a nightgown, thin and loose, the fabric catching the light just enough to hint at the shape of her body beneath it. She didn't notice me watching. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care. She stretched, arms lifting above her head, the movement making the hem right up, exposing the smooth curve of her thigh before it slipped back down again. My throat went dry. My fingers dug into the sheets. I forced myself to look away. She sat down on the bed beside me, legs tucked beneath her, completely unaware of the effect she was having on me. Or maybe, not so unaware at all. We talked, the way we always did. About nothing. About everything. She laughed at something I said, and I felt it like a fist to my gut. The sound of it. The way she tilted her head back, exposing the long, elegant line of her neck. The way her fingers brushed against my knee as she shifted, so casual, so effortless, like it meant nothing. But it did. To me, it did. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop replaying the moment in my head, analyzing every detail, picking apart every word, every glance, every breath. Did she know? Did she feel it too? Had she caught me staring, seen the way my hands trembled, the way I had to clench my jaw to keep from saying something I couldn't take back? Or was I just losing my mind? The dream started after that. Or maybe, that was just the first one I remembered. It was so vivid, so real, that when I woke up, my body was still aching, my skin damp with sweat, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. In the dream, she was there, standing in the doorway, looking at me the way no mother should ever look at her son. Her eyes dark, lips parted, voice low and sweet, dripping with something I couldn't name. She walked toward me, slow, deliberate, the silk of her nightgown whispering against her skin as she moved. She said my name, soft and breathless, and I felt it like a physical thing, like a brand against my skin. She reached for me, fingers grazing my jaw, tilting my chin up so I had no choice but to meet her gaze. And then she leaned in, so close I could feel her breath against my lips, smell the faint trace of the lavender lotion she always wore. I wanted to pull away. I wanted to run. But I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen, waiting, my whole body humming with something I didn't want to name. And then she kissed me. It was soft at first. Tentative. But then she pressed closer, her hands sliding over my shoulders, her body molding against mine, warm and real, and I woke up gasping. My whole body trembling, my hands fisted in the sheets, my skin burning like I had a fever. My stomach twisted, nausea rising up my throat, thick and choking, but beneath it, there was something else. Something darker. Something I couldn't ignore. Because even as guilt clawed at my insides, even as shame sat heavy in my chest, I still wanted more. There are moments in life that you can never take back. Moments that define you, split time in half, before and after. I think, deep down, I always knew this was going to happen. That I had been pushing the limits for too long, walking too close to the edge, testing the weight of the ground beneath my feet. And on that night, it finally gave way. It started like before. The same restless ache, the same unbearable tension building inside me, the same dangerous thoughts gnawing at the edges of my sanity. Savannah was asleep beside me, her breathing slow and even, her body turned slightly away. I knew I should have gotten up, left the room, done anything to get away from the temptation. But I didn't. I stayed. And this time I didn't even try to fight it. I reached for my phone, plugged in my earbuds, let my fingers move over the screen like they had so many times before. But this time I didn't hold back. I wasn't careful. The hunger was too strong, the need too overwhelming, and the reckless part of me, the part that had been growing stronger with every passing day, was done pretending. I don't know how long it lasted. Time blurred, lost in the haze of my own indulgence. But then, out of nowhere, everything shattered. The bed shifted. A breath, sharp, quick. And then, movement. My body went cold, my pulse a frantic hammer in my throat. I didn't want to turn my head. I didn't want to look. But I had no choice. She was awake. Eyes half-lidded, face turned toward me, brows slightly drawn together like she wasn't sure if she was still dreaming. The air between us turned electric, heavy, suffocating. My stomach lurched, the weight of my own actions crashing down on me all at once. I had been caught. There was no talking my way out of this, no excuse that could undo what she had just seen. The silence stretched, unbearable, unending. And then, finally, she spoke. "What are you doing?" Her voice was quiet, almost too soft, but there was something in it, something unreadable, something that made my chest tighten like a vice. I couldn't answer. My tongue felt heavy, useless, trapped in my mouth. 1,000 thoughts ran through my head, 1,000 ways to explain, to lie, to make this moment disappear. But none of them would work. She had seen everything. I wanted to run. I wanted to close my eyes and wake up somewhere else, someone else. But there was nowhere to go. Nowhere to hide. So I did the only thing I could do, I froze. Savannah didn't move. Didn't look away. She just lay there, watching me, her expression impossible to read. I waited for her to yell, to recoil in disgust, to demand that I get the hell out of her house. But she didn't. She just stared, her face caught somewhere between confusion and something else, something I couldn't name. And that was worse. That silence. That uncertainty. That heavy pause where anything could happen. I opened my mouth, desperate to say something, anything, to make this moment less unbearable. But the words wouldn't come. What could I possibly say? Sorry? It wasn't what it looked like? But it was. It was exactly what it looked like, and we both knew it. I expected her to be angry. I expected her to be disgusted. But she wasn't. Or if she was, she didn't show it. Her eyes searched mine, slow and careful, like she was looking for something, some kind of explanation, some kind of truth she hadn't been willing to see before. And then, after what felt like an eternity, she sighed, closed her eyes, and turned onto her back, staring up at the ceiling. That was it. No shouting. No accusations. Just a single breath, a single movement, and then silence. I lay there, frozen, waiting for something more. Waiting for the explosion. Waiting for her to get up, to leave, to tell me I had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. But she didn't. She just stayed there, breathing, thinking, lost in whatever thoughts had taken hold of her. Did she already know? Had she suspected before? Had she seen the way I looked at her, felt the way the air between us had been shifting, thickening with something neither of us wanted to name? And if she had she wanted it, too? That thought made my stomach twist, sent a sharp pulse of something dangerous through my veins. I hated myself for it. Hated that my body still responded to the moment, that my heart still pounded for all the wrong reasons. But I couldn't help it. It was too late. Too far gone. Minutes passed, long and stretched thin, and then, without a word, she got up. The mattress shifted beneath her weight, the rustling of sheets the only sound in the room. I held my breath, waiting, watching as she walked toward the door. She didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge me. Just left, disappearing into the hallway, leaving me alone in the darkness with nothing but my own shame. The next day, everything was different. We didn't talk about what had happened. We didn't even mention it. But the weight of it hung in the air, thick and suffocating, pressing into every moment, every glance, every breath. And worse than anything, was the way she looked at me now. Not with anger. Not with disappointment. But with something else, something that made my pulse skip, my stomach knot, my thoughts spiral into places they had no business going. The way she held my gaze a little too long when we spoke. The way her hand brushed against mine in the kitchen, a fleeting touch that lingered longer than it should have. The way her voice softened when she said my name, like she was testing the weight of it on her tongue, feeling something new, something dangerous. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe it was all in my head. But I didn't think so. And that terrified me more than anything. I tried to act normal. Tried to pretend nothing had changed. But it had. And we both knew it. Every conversation felt loaded, every interaction laced with something neither of us wanted to name. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down into the abyss, knowing you shouldn't jump but wanting to anyway. Just to see what would happen. Just to feel something real. And the worst part? I didn't know if she'd catch me, or if she'd jump too. Something had shifted. There was no denying it now. The air between us had thickened, become something else entirely. The kind of tension you can't name, the kind that lingers in the space between words, in the glances that last too long, in the silence that stretches too far. It was suffocating. It was consuming. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape it. I thought distance would help. That if I kept away from her, if I made myself small, quiet, invisible, maybe whatever this was would pass. But it didn't. Avoiding Savannah only made it worse. The more I stayed away, the more I wanted her. The more I tried not to think about that night, the more it replayed in my head, over and over, every second, every detail, until I could barely breathe. I found excuses to leave the house, to be anywhere but there. I started taking long walks, wandering the streets aimlessly, letting the cold air bite at my skin, hoping it would shock me back to my senses. I stayed out late, lingered in coffee shops, sat on park benches until my fingers went numb. Anything to avoid being in that apartment with her, to avoid the unbearable weight of what we had become. But it didn't work. Because no matter where I went, she was still with me. In my thoughts. In my body. In the way my skin burned with the memory of her. It was like I had been branded, like I carried her with me now, like there was no part of me that wasn't touched by her. And at night, when I finally forced myself to return home, it was even worse. The apartment was too small, the walls too thin, and she was always there, just on the other side of the room, just out of reach. I could hear the soft rustle of her sheets when she turned over, the quiet exhale of her breath as she drifted off to sleep. And I would lay there, rigid and helpless, staring at the ceiling, clenching my fists so tight my nails bit into my palms, willing myself to forget what it felt like to be so close to her. She changed too. I could see it. Feel it. The way she moved differently, more carefully, like she was hyper-aware of her own presence. The way she stopped wearing the nightgown, started dressing in layers, in clothes that hid her body from me, like she was trying to erase whatever temptation had been there before. Like she was trying to protect us both from something neither of us could control. But it wasn't just the clothes. It was everything. The way she barely looked at me anymore, the way she spoke in clipped sentences, never lingering too long in the same room. The way she avoided touching me, even in the smallest ways. No more casual brushes of her hand against mine, no more leaning in close when she laughed, no more warmth radiating from her body when she passed by. She had built a wall between us, and with every day that passed, she stacked the bricks higher. And yet, I saw it. The hesitation in her eyes. The way she would catch herself before looking away too quickly, the way her fingers trembled slightly when she handed me something, the way her breath hitched when I got too close. She was fighting something too. Something she couldn't name, something she didn't want to acknowledge. And the more she pushed me away, the more I knew. She had felt it too. The silence between us stretched for days, then weeks, an unspoken agreement that neither of us could bring ourselves to break. We lived like ghosts, moving through the same space but never truly existing in it together. But I knew it couldn't last. Something had to give. And eventually, it did. It was late, and I was sitting in the living room, staring at the blank television screen, lost in thoughts I didn't want to have. I heard her footsteps before I saw her, soft against the floor, hesitant, measured. She walked in and stood there for a moment, just watching me, her arms crossed over her chest like she was holding herself together. "Zechariah," she said, and my name in her mouth sent a shiver down my spine. It had been a long time since she'd said it like that, soft, careful, deliberate. I turned to face her, my pulse pounding in my ears, my mouth suddenly dry. I knew what was coming before she even said it. I had known for days, maybe longer. Maybe from the moment our lives had started unraveling. "You need to leave." The words were quiet, barely more than a breath, but they hit me like a physical thing, like a punch to the gut, knocking the air from my lungs. I stared at her, waiting for her to take it back, to say something else, anything else. But she didn't. Her hands tightened around her arms, her fingers digging into the fabric of her sweater, and I realized she was shaking. Just a little. Just enough. "Why?" My voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. She shook her head, exhaling sharply, like she had been holding her breath for too long. "You know why." I did. Of course, I did. But I wanted to hear her say it. I wanted to make her admit what we both already knew, that staying here, staying with her, was dangerous. That whatever this was, whatever had been growing between us, could no longer be ignored. That if I stayed, we would cross a line that neither of us could come back from. She didn't say it, though. She just stood there, waiting, bracing herself, like she expected me to argue, to fight, to beg. But I didn't. I just nodded, slow and heavy, my throat tight, my chest aching with something I didn't know how to name. And just like that, it was over. They say time heals all wounds. That if you wait long enough, if you put enough distance between yourself and the past, the memories will fade, the weight of your mistakes will lessen, and one day, you'll wake up feeling whole again. But that's a lie. Some things don't fade. Some wounds don't heal. And some desires never die. I left the next day. No fight. No goodbyes. Just a packed bag slung over my shoulder and a quiet, suffocating tension hanging between us. Savannah didn't look at me when I walked out the door. She just stood by the kitchen counter, staring down at her hands, like if she focused hard enough on something else, she could pretend I wasn't leaving at all. I wanted to say something. I wanted her to stop me. But she didn't. And maybe that was for the best. With no money and nowhere to go, I ended up on a friend's couch, sleeping on a mattress that smelled like old beer and stale cigarettes. It wasn't much, but it was something. A place to be. A place that wasn't hers. But even though I was gone, I wasn't free. I carried her with me. In the way my body tensed at night, expecting to hear her soft breathing beside me. In the way my fingers twitched with the memory of her warmth, the ghost of something that had never truly happened, but had come so damn close. In the way my dreams refused to let her go, trapping me in endless loops of what-ifs and almosts, pulling me back into that bed, into that unbearable silence, into the moment she had turned to me in the dark and asked the question I had no answer for. Was it real? Or had I imagined it all? Savannah never spoke about that night again. She never called. Never reached out. As far as I knew, she had erased me completely, wiped me from her world like a stain she could scrub away if she just tried hard enough. And yet, I knew better. I knew it wasn't that simple. I knew that, somewhere deep inside, she was carrying the weight of it too. Because that's the thing about moments like those, they don't disappear. They don't just cease to exist because you pretend they never happened. They sit inside you, buried beneath layers of guilt and regret, but always there, always waiting, always whispering in the back of your mind when you least expect it. Was she tempted? Was she scared? Did she ever wake up in the middle of the night, her breath caught in her throat,